Welcome everybody to the Centre Bounce. It is our new show, The Review Crew, hitting you up on a Monday. Something a little bit different. Assessing it now. Joe is not here. He will be here on Thursdays. But, mate, I'm excited. Are you boys excited? Happy Monday.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, mate, for sure.
Definitely.
Easy. So I guess kind of the idea of the show is we'll go through the weekend's games. As the season progresses in Supercoach, we'll obviously go through our teams, just be like, hey, how we went, that kind of jazz. But hopefully everyone's watching and, stick around for the fun for the next couple of hours. How you doing, Velo? Cracking through all of the comments already. Good evening, guys. What a week. So much carnage with Bont, Goulden and Butters, just to name a few, on the top of the cyclone warning heading towards Brisbane. Mate, I don't think we could have scheduled, if you had said to me, Supercoach, AFL, hey, 3 of the 4 of the best players in Supercoach of the most expensive are going to be out in the same week. And our teams are fundamentally going to change over 1 week period. I don't know, guys. What do you reckon?
It's tricky. I mean, this is only my second year coming into Supercoach, and to my knowledge, I don't think we've seen a preseason with so much carnage. And now you throw in the cyclone warning. Like, it's going to be a test.
Yeah, I reckon definitely, like, who would have thought Bont, probably you would have thought maybe his last chance to win a Brownlow. Yeah, just kind of gets screwed over there. But, yeah, I think, I don't know, it'll be very entertaining, this game, if it is played. I tell you what, torrential rain. I remember that Gold Coast North game a few.
Yep.
I think it was like 2018 or something. That might have been round 1 as well. But yeah, that was extremely entertaining. People sliding around everywhere. So no, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, good old monsoon Queensland games, right? I don't know why that one wasn't cancelled, but what do you reckon, Kai?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. You got obviously the Brisbane game is potentially going to be called off. There's even worries about the Gold Coast, the backlash from the actual, I would think maybe flood warnings or whatever. And then the 2 Sydney games as well, just looking at the weather, there's rain every single day up until about Sunday in Sydney. So there's a chance that all 4 games are absolute just tackle fests.
Yeah, I think last couple of years, at least last year, round 0 wasn't as wet as what it was, just after summer, season of summer. But now, like, mate, it is going off at the moment. Michael here. Yep, Bont and Butters were in his team. We're all getting excited. Round 0, round 1 starting up soon.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have taken a lot of hard lessons from last year, and I'm keen to kind of throw them into this season and see what happens. And honestly, given the carnage as well, I think we're given an opportunity to really try and pod layouts, some different strats that maybe we weren't considering at the start. And yeah, mind you, they've kind of forced our hand to kind of think a little bit differently and change up our structures. But I think it's going to make for a pretty exciting start to the season.
Yeah, I think so as well. What do you reckon, Kai? Bit of a change up this year. Excited for round 0, round 1, or just, hey, I wish I had an extra 3 months to kind of prepare?
Yeah, I think the most interesting part this year will be, I don't think the rookie crop is as exciting as it has been in the past for roles, but I think the one that interests me is like the 3rd and 4th year players. I think this year will be critical. You've got that midfield mass in that like 180 to 190k range, and even in the defenders and the forwards, you've got those 2nd, 3rd, 4th year players that are definitely high on the agenda.
Yeah. What do you reckon, God?
Yeah, no, I reckon it'll be good. Like, just on rookie coach's point, like, I think with structures last year, there wasn't really much carnage leading up to round 0, maybe apart from Yo. Yo might have been the only one.
Yeah.
And this year, I don't know, it feels like every single team is so different, like, compared to last year. Last year, every team felt like it was so similar. They all had, like, yes, our forward lines are all very similar, but apart from that, it's all all over the shop, really. Like it can go anyone's way.
Yeah, definitely. I think point I'm going to make in the upcoming video too, kind of highlighting that a little bit, is just there's no one structure after making 500-600 teams as you do in the preseason. There's no one structure that's kind of been a big fit. I think in previous years, fill up the forward line, fill up the back line, fill up the midfield. Must have these rookies, must not have these rookies. The carnage, but also just kind of everyone being viable. I mean, I kind of aiming series thought half a dozen players weren't acceptable, and then half a dozen more have come out and actually said, "Hey, pick me, pick me, pick me."
The practice matches are interesting for like the way I looked at it as well. Is I think for like rookies and the ones that you're taking a bit of that risk on, you're looking for that role, you're looking for that security of like they best 22. And then you're also trying to get a feel as to, okay, you don't really need to look at the primos. We know what they can do. Like we saw what Daicos did against, the Tigs and absolutely destroyed. But then you see someone like a Rosie come and put their hand up and go, oh yeah, Butters is out. Make sure you put me in your team. I'm going to go score, massive numbers. So I'm on everyone's radar. And you're like, okay, well now everyone's going to have him. So I think practice matches for me, it was hard to take everything at full weight. Again, still being practice matches, I think you kind of have to look at it with a grain of salt and be like, okay, maybe the first 2 quarters are like where you're going to get your good reads. And then like the last 2 quarters, they're rotating, the youngsters in and trying different stuff out. So I think it was interesting seeing the difference just between the first 2 halves.
Yeah, I think as well. Let you guys touch on it too, but I hated the fact that, fourth and third quarter teams started resting their primos, and then it was like, oh, this rookie scored really well. Oh, it was in the last quarter when all the good players were not there.
Yeah, to that extent. I think even though this is a fantasy score, but I think Bryant scored like 64 fantasy points in the last quarter of that Essendon practice game. And it was just like, he looked ridiculous in his scoring with his tog. But it was just because he was, I think, soloing. I think they maybe rested Draper at that point or something. It was...
Yeah, it kind of sucks. I think a couple of Freo rookies as well. What do you reckon, Supercoach God? Just kind of came out of nowhere and were now selectable options when Sarong stopped playing.
Yeah. I mean, with Freo, yeah, like Nathan O'Driscoll, he kind of, I know a lot of people looking at him, and I don't know, his first half was so average. And then, I don't know, it felt like he got a bit of mid-time when Sarong came off as well. And I don't know, he started playing a lot better. But I don't know, players like that, I needed to see him do a 4-quarter performance because they're 200K. Like it's a bit hard to select a 200K player who really only played well for a quarter, I feel like. But there's players like Murphy Reed, who, he didn't score much, but it was consistent scoring over the four quarters. And I probably prioritize someone like that at 130K than at 200K Nathan O'Driscoll.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when the likes of Finn O'Sullivan, the God, kind of pop out of nowhere and say, hey, pick me, I'm a good Supercoach player. What do you guys think will happen if Cats Lions is cancelled? Will they play round 3? A lot of players aren't getting selected from those teams. It's kind of, as Maltesing says here, pretty big ramifications, guys.
Yeah, I think the change. I mean, we've gone through massive changes already with the injuries, and then we have this game change where people might have been steering clear of, the Lions and the Catters and anyone on that bye, like especially the Catters and the Lions. They might have stayed cleared of like a Zorko or a Neil or a Holmes just because of that bye. You move that bye around, that's like you've now got another M1. You've got a potential M3 again in Holmes. You've got a potential pod in Dunkley that you can throw into your team. And it's more likely that they're not going to be a pod now. Like the area I looked at the buys, especially the early buys, is that the guys that have the buys is where you're going to find those hidden primos. Because most are probably going to steer clear because of the buy. So if you wanted some pod picks, look there. But if they're moving some players out of that, obviously the ownership percentage is probably going to go up a bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that Holmes is going to solve that a lot of what the Chaos and that sort of defender line is looking at the moment. I think a lot of people, if say that is moved to round 3, a lot of people will probably end up going Sheasel, Holmes, Short, Roberts, Perriman, and then Allen or Reed, and that's going to be a very stock standard line, and then it'll be probably the midfield where a lot of people will diverge, I think.
I don't know how many people are picking Bo Allen after that -12 run. God, what do you reckon?
No, not for me. I mean,
Not for you.
No, not for me. A -12, unfortunately. Yeah, don't want him to go from, what is he, 136k to 99k. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, about like the defense, my D3, there's about 4 or 5 players fighting for my D3 spot at the moment, and I can't split them in any which way. Like, you've got, I think Wanganeen Malia is in my team at the moment, but it could easily be Holmes, it could easily be Stewart, it could be Sicily. I seriously don't know, but yeah, watching, if that game goes ahead, then you can't really take anything out of it because it's going to be torrential rain. But yeah, because it's cancelled, Holmes and Stewart are looking really good.
Yeah, I wonder what will happen with the likes of Zorko as well. A lot of people haven't included him, but take away the early buy, Nokaneen Coleman, could make things a bit interesting as well. How many times has your Supercoach team changed over the weekend, guys? I'll take some hits, and then I'll do mine. Was it one per game, or like after every game, after every day? It's like, oh, I now need this new player in my team, or have you guys kind of, hey, I think we're just coasting along and we'll reassess after the weekend?
I've definitely done the kind of the rage trade or switch out during the game. I've seen a couple of that quiet first quarter. You're like, nah. And I think second quarter into the Freo versus Melbourne game yesterday, Rivers was out even before halftime. Saw the role wasn't there anymore. I was like, okay, I was hoping Rivers was going to have that role. He was someone I was holding for ages. And then, yeah, now with that midfield with, tracking it and Clary looking in really good form, it's Viney back. It's just not happening. Rivers ain't got the role. So, well, I think just on the weekend, I don't even think I could count.
Yeah, I just did a quick count of while you were talking about of how many players in my team are new from after the preseason, and safe to say I definitely didn't overreact with 14 changes in my team. So yeah, no, I mean, my only midfield primo that stayed in the team is Oliver. So okay. I mean, even that alone, I mean, you got your Shorts, Perrymans, and Roberts that have all put their hand up now. Clark has really come into consideration after his good performance yesterday. I don't know. There's just so many players that have put their hand up that were always kind of Supercoach relevant, but now they definitely are.
Kai, how many changes have you made from your team?
I think it's sitting at 8. And one of the funny thing was I was watching the Freo versus Melbourne game, and I was frantically texting Dylan, just like, Dylan Alexander, why the heck have they got Langdon in the role that Rivers should be in? Because that was just really, really funny to me that they've got a skinny winger in a role, and they've got Rivers that's a natural on baller just sitting on the outside.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think for myself, it's a lot of these players, you get kind of sucked in. Maybe that's a bit of a reactive thing, but when your player you didn't really expect to go 170 comes out and scores a 170, it's like, oh, cool, maybe I do need you in my Supercoach team. So it's Nick Daicos getting my side at the moment, and we'll kind of see what happens from there a little bit, I think.
I'm with you, Big J.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting take here. Lions unfurling the flag. Does that happen round 0 if the game's cancelled, or are they going to get stuck doing it in New South Wales or somewhere different? It's a bit of a rough one for the fans, I think, this weekend's games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I know when Collingwood won the flag and we unveiled the flag, like it's such a important event. Like you almost rock up to that game, yes, to watch footy, but the headline is, as a fan, them unveiling the flag. So when it's just going to be waving around in 100-kilometer winds, like that's no fun, and the people watching as well, like they're going to be like squinting their eyes because all the winds in their eyes is getting cut grass in their eyes. Like they don't want to watch it in that circumstance. So no, I'm kind of all for. I think there's talks about pushing it back to Sunday now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for that if it for the sake of Lions fans.
I think for myself, people rat on Marvel Stadium so much and the roof, but perfect game to have a roof at a stadium this weekend, I think.
Definitely.
Hi, Mark. How you doing? Michael, there you go. Velo, every time I make a change, someone gets a niggle or worse. This preseason has been crazy. 100% agree. Captain Flash, good evening, everybody. Down the list. G'day, folks, from Sean. Let's see if we get some more questions for everybody, guys. If someone wants to load up this weekend's games as well, we'll have a bit of a chat about how things are going. Just let me know. I can chuck through a share, so no worries there. Guys, carnage this week. All of my locks are injured. The only other midfield primos I have the bye, which means, trying to get Bont and Butters, figuring out what's going to happen. It's an interesting one. I don't think I've ever had a year in Supercoach where the Bont just hasn't been selectable or really achievable at his price earlier on. It's like, cool, post-buy with all the price changes and whatnot. We might not have Bont until like round 12 or 13, guys.
It's a scary thought.
I think like with Bont, like you're going to have to, and Butters, having to pick them later is pretty much why I'm starting Nick Daicos, because if trying to get those three players in throughout the season and trying to get them pretty early on, you would have thought it's gonna be hard. Like, and that, I mean, if Daicos scores an average of 130 for the first round, 5 rounds, that's amazing. If he scores 115, 110, it's all right. Like I just don't want the pressure of having to get all 3 players in the first half or after that, or even and after that round 12 bye.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, right? Like, you don't want to end up spending all your cash generation 3 or so trades on each of the big guys. You'd rather start 1 or 2, right, Kai?
Yeah, Daicos is definitely an interesting conversation to be had, because if he does average 130, I think it was something that I was thinking about, because they obviously have that Anzac Day, like the hard fixture up until about Anzac Day, and then it just absolutely opens up for Nick Daicos. Just looking here, he's got Essendon, Geelong, Freo, Adelaide, North, Hawks is tough, Melbourne, St Kilda, West Coast, and then to Carlton. So he has basically 2.5 months of just 140s there. But the thing about Daicos is if he goes 130s for the first, say, 5 rounds that he'll be scoring, then at a 70 score covering, that's, I think, only about a 118, 117, which is basically what he's almost priced at. So you are getting the effectively what he's priced at, but he's going to be up about 50k or so by that Anzac Day. So it's that big discussion of, and that's probably why I'm more so in the fade of Nick Daicos, even though he went crazy, is just that one tag game or one low game, and it almost swings dramatically, like 190 or 180, and he has to go about 145 in the other games to catch it back up.
Easy. Coach, are you in the pick Daicos or not pick Daicos camp at the moment?
It's hard to sit in the camp for longer than an hour at this point, because you weigh out the pros and cons, especially with you got Butters and Bont down. Everyone's probably got to jump on Daicos. And then if they, move the buy around, people are going to probably jump on Neil as well. But try and target those guys that you think are going to be your M1 to 3 and not be able to get them too early and have to wait till their buy. again, most people, I think Daicos, last time I checked, was at 60% ownership. And
Okay.
the higher that ownership goes up, the scarier the fade looks. Because if they're right, that's a big hurt factor you're going to have to try and make up for across the field. Currently, though, just with my structure, I am leaning towards fading him.
Fair enough. Fair enough. G-Bag, if that's going to work for us. 1 second. G-Bags, thank you very much, mate. Hey, fellas, is it worth downgrading Rankin to McRae if it means you can get another Uber Primo, such as Merritt or Whitfield in? I think you probably want to start McRae regardless. Maybe grab Whitfield or Merritt, but McRae is so good at the price. I mean, he's the only one from St Kilda I'm almost starting my team. Even Garcia just didn't look that good on the weekend. What do you guys reckon? McRae must have regardless. Downgrade Rankin. What's kind of your thoughts on the two players there?
Well, I've got both. So, but if you had to pick one, it's 100% McRae. But yeah, I mean, if this is the question and he's saying is it worth downgrading Rankin to McRae to get another Uber Primo, then yes, 100% it is.
Kai, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. And this is almost my fancy brain coming out. It's just that Rankin definitely feels like a more impact per possession player, very much to Chad Warner, and we've seen Horn Francis do that. And sometimes if their impact or their disposal efficiency isn't there, they drop absolute stinkers. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rankin comes out in round one and drops anywhere from a 60 to like a 130. And that I just think that McRae is going to get enough disposals up there, enough contested possession to be a solid floor of almost an 85 or so, and then upwards towards that 110, 115.
Yeah, Coach, there's always seems to be one or two players come round one that go massive. Remember, Nick Daicos was that player a little bit last year that no one had in their team, and then scored massive, and everyone scrambled, changed their entire sides to get him in. Do you think Rankin could be potentially that player for us this year?
There's always a chance. There is a chance, but one thing with that question I would try to consider and do the math on is, all right, if you don't have McRae and then you have to downgrade a mid or defensive line player to someone else, try to work out their averages across and then run that up against, okay, say you get McRae, who is a certain lock. I don't think it'd be pretty risky to start without McRae. Hats off to you. But if you can get McRae and then like a Whitfield, for example, and if they do quite well in their roles, which we've seen a brief glimpse into McRae and how good that role is going to get just based on the practice game, and we know what Whitfield can do. I think you'll find you'll probably have, you might have some hurt factor when Rankin does have those spike scores for sure, and that those weeks are going to feel pretty salty. But I think across the season, I think you'll find you're probably in a more comfortable position having McRae and then like a Whitfield.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. Yaron, thank you very much. Hey, lads, I'm exhausted, so most likely fall asleep listening. There you go. Something to jump onto later as well. Let's kind of figure out where we're...
Just serenading the man.
Hey, done. Love the intro, guys. Yeah, took me a little while to put it together, but very, very happy. You guys happy with the intro for the new show?
Oh, yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
Straight out of Universal Studios, mate.
Oh, there you go. James asks, thoughts on starting Dane Zorko this year? He's old. He's very expensive, but the role is definitely there. How long is Kadeem Coleman out for, guys?
I think he comes back around round 3 or 4.
Okay.
It's not too long.
Surely they rest him though. Like they're not going to throw him back straight into AFL after not having AFL and then being injured again, right?
No, I think he's training though. I don't think he's completely. I think they're just making sure it's right. So I think that's actually what they're doing.
Yeah. Has Dane Zorko been in your guys' kind of predictions and, hey, look, I'm going to chuck him in my team, or too old, that kind of thing?
I think for me, the big consideration is just how much of a chunk does Kitty Coleman take out, and even if it's just 5 points, that 5 points builds up slowly over a season. So I'd rather have that primo like a Lockie Whitfield or someone like that, or even if we now get the Holmes or whatever, that's going to stick on their price or maybe have 1-2 points of upside.
Yeah, it kind of hurts, doesn't it, Coach? Like, you want him as a super primo, and then someone comes in and starts stealing a bit of his points every week or so. I mean, 2 or 3 kickouts, 2 or 3 halfback kind of positions, could be 30 points gone by the end of every game.
Yeah, definitely can be. I think the consideration as well is the fixture for Brisbane looks really nice, and I think if you are starting Zorko, you're trying to capture those spike scores that he's going to get early, and then you kind of make the judgment when Coleman comes in and maybe make a little change. But if you're using a trade on that change, is it really going to be worth it? Where as Kai said, you can start at Whitfield and know there's going to be that consistency of role factor without really any interruptions. Zorko has definitely been in and out of my side, just based on some structures to play with. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this Cyclone news, and I think we'll probably see a few people take the risk.
I know it's not been asked, but I assume that we're all starting Sheasel, or is someone not starting Sheasel? Yeah, see lots of nodding heads. Okay, cool. Fair enough. Velo asks here, looking at Nazaya and Logan Evans and M. Roberts. Wow. Okay, cool. Nazaya and Logue? Is that North Melbourne Logue Velo? I don't think he's going to be viable in Supercoach. I don't hate the Logan Evans pick though, guys. Do you guys hate the Logan Evans pick? Am I the only one that's actually considering him? Maybe I've got a bit of not FOMO, but just happy feelings from selecting him last year in Supercoach and watching those scores kind of rack up in the back line.
I mean, he's probably the best option around the Callum Mills price mark. But I don't know. If you think he's going to average more than your Perryman, Shorts, and Roberts, then go for it. But I think those other options are probably more safe. I think doing Logan Evans is quite a risk.
Yeah. At least he doesn't have an early buy, I suppose. What do you reckon, Kai? You going to jump on the Logan Evans train, or watch us sit and burn?
I don't think I will. I think just there's guys that have that full-on midfield role. You've got Perryman. Even I just think that I know that Roberts is another probably 75k or so, but he definitely got that 1-2 sort of halfback role. And I think if you just look down at the list of Port players here, Finlayson, Bergman, Evans, Burgoyne, even at times you're probably going to see Lukosius even down there, Kane Farrell. That's already like 5 guys there that could genuinely all have 100 games there, and suddenly that Evans pick suddenly has a 70 game in there, and you need to trade him out almost at that point.
Without kind of looking at your guys' teams, how many rookie defenders are you actually playing? Is it 1? Is it 2? Or kind of, I've seen 1 or 2 teams go 3. Coach, how many you reckon is a good kind of a number for today or for this year?
3. Hats off to anyone who's trying to run 3. I don't know where you're finding them. Tell me where, because I don't know where you're finding these at all. I'm the most structures I land on are just fielding 1. Just because of how short we are. So I think probably the common notion is strengthen your short. We don't have any rookies that Reed might put his hand up to score some high consistent numbers, but I mean there's upside there with Short. Short deserves his own little stream because I think we're all just scared about getting baited into him. But yeah, I'm going for 1 on field, maybe 2, depending on what we see with opening round, but yeah, I think 1's probably my comfortable spot on field.
Yeah, I think so too for me.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
My big question for the people starting even 2 or 3 is just the question of, is there going to be 4 or 5 viable rookies that can actually score more than, because there's no point playing a rookie who's going to score, say, 35 or so. That's genuinely the case that we're going to have in backlines. So I'm landing on 1 on field, and even at that point, I'm just trying to I could even have 3 119 guys and then just cycle through, just hope at that point.
Yeah, I think so as well. God, what do you reckon? Load up on the primos in the back line, forget everywhere else. And, I've seen a couple of teams that have no rookies on field in the back line.
Yep, that's me, mate. I don't have a single rookie on field. I've got Reed and Leake on the bench.
Yep.
And then I've got Josh Sin at the D6.
Okay. Interesting. I don't think we'll get any questions about the Josh Sin. That is definitely a bit controversial. We'll kind of see a little bit at the moment what's going to happen with him. Captain Flash here. Bont, Marshall, Darcy, Butter. Okay. Yeah. Bont, Marshall, Darcy, Butters, Smith. I don't know about Smith. Goulden, Philippou, Richards, Mills, Grundy, Green. Heck, even Grundy as well. All players who I had in my team at some point, only to have them ruled out to injury or suspension or everything else. Guys, are we going to see any more injuries before round one? We've got like 5 more games. Can we assume that someone else is going to get injured, or are we going to get kind of safe?
I mean, we got lucky today with Darcy Cameron. That was also almost another one that went down.
I haven't heard.
Yeah, that's really worrying that you've got all those guys. Grundy isn't confirmed out, and he didn't. I think it was a knee issue there. And in the photos I saw today, he didn't have any strapping on the knee. It looked like more like a calf strap, but that's general rucks have strapping everywhere below their knee. So I think he's one that looks more likely than not to, I think, play.
I mean, there's every chance we see 1 or 2 more, but I don't know if this year in Supercoach is anything like what these last 2 or 3 weeks have been, we are going to run out of trades very quickly. And we're going to have we're going to have Boxall on the field still by round 24. But yeah, I mean, is what it is, I guess. We can't do anything about it, so we're just going to have to make do.
Yeah, no, fair enough there. Rookies, kind of mid-season draftee rookies, but just rookies in general, saved my season last year. I think I had Houston out for a while, and then Harry Sheasel was out as well, and a few of these other guys. Coach, any more injuries coming?
I think it goes one or two ways. They don't see the warning signs that the preseason are giving us all, and they don't change their load management, and we just see more carnage kind of unveiled until they kind of pick up the pieces. But hopefully, because of how much injury and scares have been, like, Kai mentioned Darcy Cameron today, bit of a scare, had to come back with good scans. But I think hopefully everyone's a bit switched on, just sees, maybe we've kind of underdone the management and the run up to match fitness, and maybe take a bit of a better approach to the early season to make sure the players are not going to put themselves at risk. So it's a hard one to call. I guess we'll either run out of trades by round 12 and have 5 to go through the rest of the season with, because we've got our whole midfield all injured, or we'll be fine and it'll be another season like always.
Yeah, I always, Joe and I harp on a lot of start the risk, don't bring the risk into your teams, but this year really does feel like it. Do you take the risk on a player that has come back from injuries that, are going to be a little bit cheaper, or kind of just forego it at all and say, hey, like, I'm not even going to go there? Or you just can't predict it?
No,
yeah, it'd definitely be interesting with like even just Goulden with that syndesmosis, and when you actually, I posted about it today with the tackle, that when you actually look at it again, it's a hit drop tackle, which is something that probably needs to get outlawed in the game, but that's another tangent. But that was his left foot, and we know that he racks it up based on that kicking efficiency. So is that left foot, how long is that going to affect him for? It could even just be this season as a no-go on him.
Yeah, I mean, picking players that, like, what are on the screen now, when they come back, I guess Bonds with a calf, that could be risky because it's a calf injury. It's very easy to do again. But yeah, I mean, even players that are available now that have had injury history or are just simply like old, like a Zorko, I would never go near a 36-year-old player. But that's just me. But yeah, they're hard to start. It's like Treloar. I don't know many people who have started Treloar in the past based off how many soft tissue injuries he's had. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something you got to take into account when building your team, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you've got the likes of Liberatore, who, without all the concussion injuries, would actually be a viable selection in Supercoach at the moment, just given how bad the Dogs are. And then, one hit, a little bit like Lockie Whitfield for myself. Every time I see him take a hit, like, is he going to get up? Is he going to get up? Or is back on the floor again? Boys, I have a question. How does a rookie score -12? Because that's the first time I've seen, -1s or 2s. I think Miller Bergman last year when he got injured, he was on -2, and then scaling and whatnot ended up on -2 towards the end of the season. But how does a rookie score -12, guys?
Well, I'm just trying to find it, but I think Billy Gowers scored something like that years ago.
Like Bo Allen didn't play 10% game time. He almost spent the entire game on the field. Got 6 touches, and still ended up on -12.
It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, so someone make it make sense, please.
I reckon they should delist him and get a top up player at that rate.
Yeah, is SSP still open for the next couple of weeks? Well, kind of tangent a little bit. Do you guys think SSP should be open until round 1? I mean, it kind of screws a little bit with like state league teams, but AFL's a bit like stuff you guys, should it be open all the way until round 1, or should we kind of cut it off a few weeks beforehand like we've been doing at the moment?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine how it is. I mean, a player like Jagger Smith does his ACL. You can't replace him. You're gonna have to get a player because he's not going to be playing all year. So even though they didn't even get a midfielder, it didn't make much sense. They definitely took advantage of it to get what the team really needed. But yeah, I don't really have an issue with the current SSP situation.
Yeah, at some point it just ends up being a little bit like pick the best available, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
Maltesing saying he love your background. God, I guess kind of a fellow Collingwood person. Bit of a question, Essendon based, but we'll definitely take it on. What happens with Essendon? Last couple of weeks, they've definitely gone very tall with Brian, Jones, Reed, Draper as well, and a few others. In the wet, are they going to cull a few of those talls and bring in some other players, guys that we thought were going to be best 22 but just aren't? Or do you guys think they won't kind of change the game plan as much?
I mean, I think it really depends on how that tall game plan works. I mean, if they are running that and it's working, I think they're going to find it quite hard to steer the ship away from a plan that is providing results. Like, yeah, they probably want to make some slight changes to get guys that are going to be better at, below the knees to pick up that loose ball that's going to be, swimming around that field in the wet. But I think like Reed and your taller guys, especially more important, like Reed that sit at the back and can do that intercepting and be that real pain in the forwards. I think they're still going to hold their spot. I'm not really sure how you might change out like a Brian and a Jones for the smaller guys to come in and assist with that lower ball type of game.
Yeah, definitely. Kai, do you reckon they'll change things up or just try and figure out who's the best 22 when they go from there?
They're going to go double. We know that. So the thing is, it might be a decision of between a like right or a caddy type of scenario there to lose a tall so that you don't have almost a 3.5 or 4 tall forward line with the two rucks and the Langford and Peter Wright and Nate Cuddy, which were on the bench and all got significant game time. So that's probably where Jones on the wing, you can kind of have that taller winger, and then down back, Ridley, Reed, Mackay. They've already 3 tall defenders isn't the worst. So I don't think it's too bad. I just think it's probably overhyped a little bit just because a lot of their sort of depth players are a lot taller than a lot of other lists. They have a lot of depth in the defender key position slot, I reckon.
Yeah, no, fair enough. God, you reckon they'll change a few things or kind of throw everyone on the Kako train? Just put it low, guys, and then Kako come in. How many goals are we predicting for Kako in the wet this weekend?
Oh mate, I don't know. He'll probably kick his 4 or 5. Just what he'll probably average for the season. Hopefully, for my team. But no, I mean, I think I don't. It depending on how wet it is. If it's really wet, surely you can't win a game with 2 rucks. That's got to be borderline ridiculous. I mean, you're gonna have to. They're gonna have to pick one if it is how much rain they're saying it is going to be. I think a player like Reed will keep his spot. He's going to be able to spoil over opponents. Yes, the ball's going to go to ground, and the smalls will go to work for Gold Coast. But you got to remember, Gold Coast aren't going to drop any of their key forwards. You wouldn't have thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 rucks. I can't see it working if it is extremely wet.
I don't even know if Draper's a ruck at the moment though. Gearing up for his go at Adelaide next year. We'll see. Hopefully Joe's watching and he'll take a bit of a hit with that. Thoughts on Flynn, guys? Kind of no one really cared about him too much before this weekend's games, and now he's scored a 98 and then seems to have jumped a lot in percentage at the moment. Is he in your teams? What happens with a few of the other players coming back? Are you a little bit worried or going to jump on the 270K train and see what happens?
I'm steering clear. I don't. This is my personal take on Flynn. He's already had a preseason that's been injury affected. Yeah, he got up to play in the Amy Series match, and seems like I don't think it's a lack of confidence behind the role of that R1 for Eagles. My concern is just how well his body is going to hold up. Is he going to be able to stay up enough to give us that return on value, those points on field? Like, yeah, he might give you a good 2 rounds of maybe high 80s, maybe 90s, different, decent coverage while making some cash. But then what if he goes down halfway through game 2 and now you got a flex or an R2 at worst that you have to now look to trade?
Yep. Fair enough. Kai, what do you reckon? Jumping on Flynn or staying clear?
I think at that price tag, I think that I think Al put out a good post about it maybe earlier today about the 6 or 7 sort of rookie price midfielders and trying to find a way to get them all in. And I think that flex spot is a position where you can sort of ponder with the Sheldrick or the Nevitt or the O'Driscoll. If they're out of the best, then I could easily see a Sheldrick going a 105, 110 with Mills not there, and now with Goulden not out there.
Yep.
It's going to probably almost hand him another 40, 30% CBAs because with Sydney, there's not, with the Warner and Heaney situation there, you almost get handed another full-time on-baller. So I think he can genuinely get that 4th on-ball spot, but it will still be a 60% role.
Yeah, I guess could be a bit ballsy, God, and go Flynn R3 and say, stuff you, Boyd. See you later, mate.
No, there's a gutsier thing you can do.
Yeah. Are you gonna run him at R2?
And
that's what I saw the video, God. I've seen it.
I'm in a situation where I want 5 midfield primos. I want 4 midfield rookies on field. Okay. And I want Flynn. So What do? What's the only option? I've got to put him at R2. So
I guess so.
I am going to be really nervous every single time he goes up for a ruck contest or gets the ball. And it's not going to be good for my mental well-being. But you know what? Let's do it.
It makes good content, right? Every
Yeah,
week
it
is like,
will,
oh,
it will.
Flynn,
If it goes pear-shaped,
oh no.
it will make superb content.
Start doing West Coast watch-alongs just to get the reactions, every time Flynn jumps up. Oh man, I wonder if that changes. I'm going to hold you to that. We'll see next week and figure out if that's changed or not. I reckon with the Freo rookies, apparently they had an intra-club match. I did hear something like this on the Tuesday, so they had managed minutes for all the players. It's going to be an interesting one. Just kind of looking at a few of the games at the moment. We'll go through them next. A few of them just didn't play. If we have a look at it, Murphy Reed is probably the only one that really had proper game time. O'Driscoll, we mentioned before, really didn't do much for a long period of time and then came on towards the end with the likes of Sarong, only playing 60%. Erasmus was just non-existent, boys. Overreaction, not including any of these guys. How many do you have them in your teams? What do you guys reckon?
Yeah,
it's placeholders in regards to like Erasmus and those kind of 120-ish price rookies, and just kind of waiting to see what happens. Again, if they've been arrested because they had an intra club and whatnot, then it makes that judgment just that's a little bit tougher, because you're really taking a risk on, oh, we like the promise of Erasmus, but is he actually going to get the time? Played with O'Driscoll in the team as well, but again, that price is a little bit tricky. So I think the most consistent one I've had is Murphy Reed.
Yep. Okay. Kai, do you have any in your team?
I think I have O'Driscoll there just for the cash at the moment, but even just looking at the GWS rookies and that, they had their VFL beforehand, and that's one of the reasons why Angrove didn't play. Ralston as well. There's a lot of those guys that basically played 20-30% that ended up not playing in much. The same can be said about a lot of the, as you said, the Freo guys, and even I think Sydney as well had their Sydney and Gold Coast as well, even though they had the injuries, so they had to come on. And then you also had teams like Adelaide playing effectively a best 22 with the sub, so you almost got that information as well, which is kind of soured, I think, a lot of midfields, with Draper being on the edge, I would say, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. Draper's huge ultimate sub risk at the moment. It's pretty crazy. Going through a few. Jack Saunders, Barbara, boys, back for another year. Let's go. Charles Zammett, hey gents, nice to be with you. Convince me to pick Rankin. Who would you rather have over? Rankin, would you rather have Rankin over Petrarca, Dawson, Oliver, Chera, or Rosie? Is he better than any of these guys, or are we overreacting a little bit because they're all mids and he's, the only forward eligible player there, boys?
Well, I don't think it's fair to compare Rankin to those guys, because Rankin, you're looking at being a top 3, top 4 forward. You're not really looking at Cheryl or Rosie to be a top 4 midfielder, are you? So, I think that I've got Rankin in my team, and I have all those players but Dawson. So I don't know. It's kind of like, if you want to have that extra mid rookie on field, that's why you would go a Rankin, probably.
Okay, so you're more sacrificing, hey, you'd rather have a mid rookie versus a forward rookie, so I'll chuck Rankin in there and then just upgrade somewhere else. Kai, is he better than any of these players, or just have all of them plus Rankin?
I think going on the point there is that you can't really compare him too much unless you start doing like a 2 and 2. If you start putting together, say, a Rankin with the mid pricer, say a Chera itself or something, alongside going, say, a Sanders and probably like a Will Day is around that same combination of price. I think you almost have to look at them and then think how much points upside do they have, which combo has the more upside, rather than just comparing those guys. Because if there's a guy that's 20 points less than Rankin but has 5-10 points more upside, you're going to find someone in the midfield that has the same similar upside, and then you get 5 or 10 points overall more.
Yeah, I suppose if you're going to pick Sheldrick and he's 160k, and some people are predicting 100 plus from him, you might be able to go for it a little bit there. Coach, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I definitely think, Kai put it perfectly. I think you got to look at the numbers and look at the average of what is the upside to one or the other. But I think if you're gonna have to put a rookie on field and you want to weigh out, I think you just have to go with the midfield. I think it's a little bit. I think you can be more confident in the midfield rookies, especially as you just said, with instances like Sheldrick, where you can pretty confidently put them on, knowing they're probably going to get you some decent scores to cover. But again, it is an unfair comparison because you're looking at Paul Francis is like your F1, and you're hoping Rankin comes in at F2, F3 alongside McRae. I think for Rankin, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when you get him into your team. So, kind of, do you start with him, and can you trust some mid rookies, or do you feel like he might? I think Kai touched on that. If he has a bad game with that impact and that exposure efficiency, are you kind of banking on the fact that he's going to have some lower scores to start, and you can kind of get him at a bit cheaper price? And do you plan for that?
Yeah, definitely. It's I was just thinking over it in my head. I mean, like, defensive rookies we all kind of agree on are a bit trash. I almost want to say the forward rookies are a bit trash too. Outside of maybe a Powell Pepper now, who's kind of come on, and a Davidson, I don't really have anyone else locked into my team. So if it means another primo and getting another effectively dead rookie off the field, it's not a bad trade. What do you reckon? Down here, one here for you, God. Mo Salah asks, do I go Powell Pepper or Keiko in our team?
Alrighty. Powell Pepper. The only reason you would go for Powell Pepper is because of the early draw. That's my opinion. There's a way where I could see having Powell Pepper, but I wouldn't even have him on field. So
very expensive.
I'm gonna stick with Kako because the extra 30k could be crucial. And if Kako plays on the weekend, he could go. He could get a ton, and I mean, I don't know. It's too much upside with Kako playing in the big wet game this weekend.
Fair enough. We've got Charles here. Gents live in Brisbane, and the word is that the Brisbane Lions game on Thursday will be postponed. There you go. If that game gets moved to round 3, there is some people saying, let's put it on the Sunday. So it would still have an early bye. But if it gets moved down to round 3, as we've said before, the Lions will be very relevant. I think Geelong will be very relevant too. Captain Flash is saying here, to be honest, I think Bont and Butters as niggles / injuries, I guess, have kind of been good for me because it's eased up the round 12 stress. Less massive, you must have inclusions in your team. And then you can pick guys like Cripps, Jack Horn, Francis, LDU. Rankin definitely would be another one there. Heck, a few of the Geelong plays and stuff as well. What do you guys reckon? Has it been a blessing in disguise? I mean, we're not seeing any more 8 or 9 primos in round 12 teams anymore, are we?
No, I think Bont and Butters ownership would have gone down regardless. Even looking at these preseason games, but yeah, I don't think Cripps is selectable. Unfortunately, I mean, man got 45 votes in a Brownlow, and it wasn't even in the top 8 mids. So I do like LDU and JHF, but I wouldn't be touching Cripps.
We're saying corruption. We're saying Cripps Brownlow's bit of brown paper bags, are we?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Daicos should have won it.
Bit of a question. So we're going to go through each game, just kind of talk about quick player or two that we like from each players we've changed our minds on and whatnot. Fits in with John's question here. Who have you done the biggest 180 on out of the preseason games this week? A guy that you never thought was going to be a selectable player in your team, and now someone who has slotted straight in. Guys, maybe go you first, Coach.
Yeah, I think my locked in to not locked in, it could be an overreaction. I think everything I do at the moment's an overreaction. But Day, I was quite set on him all preseason, and then I just saw the practice match, the Amy Series game.
Yep,
it just wasn't enough. I was hoping for a bit more. I didn't see enough of like the Day I was hoping to see. That, you know, don't get me wrong, Day's still going to kill it, but for what we want at the price at almost 500k, it's a bit hard for me to lock that in that position. So he's currently been out of my team since. And then for someone who I wasn't locked on, but have now moved into my team, probably Dawson.
Okay.
I had Dawson last season. It kind of burnt me a little bit. You know, trading him out when he was giving me those horrible scores. But I don't know. There's something about just seeing how that Adelaide midfield looks where, yes, there's a lot of rotating factors included in that, but they're still looking for him to get through the passage, to get into the forward 50. Like they're always looking for him. So I think I got a little bit more confidence holding Dawson now.
God, who's your kind of 180 guy you've got into your team and guy you kicked out?
I would have to say Will Day as well. To be honest, I mean, I was so locked on him, and yeah, I just didn't see what I wanted to see, and then turn around to the Melbourne game, and I saw a built, jacked, fit and firing Christian Petrarca run around. And I never thought I'd ever pick Christian Petrarca again in Supercoach. So, I mean, there you go. He's in my team now. So, yeah. Same. Another one is Sarong. I didn't think Sarong would leave my team, but he has too.
Okay. Fair enough. Kai, someone who's come in and out?
Ooh, on the midfield, sort of that M3 I think we're all talking about would be Rosie. I don't think I had him in my side throughout this preseason. I think there was other guys there with the two when we all had the Bont and Butters, even though that news was changed probably before the trial games. I think a lot of people went straight down to almost that Oliver region, that 400k, so didn't really consider those early 500k guys. So he's probably the one, especially with the Butters news, and as well as him just stepping up and there being value there. That's the one that's probably locked on. And then I was really high on Rivers until I saw that role, and Langdon, he can stuff off.
I think for myself, I think for myself, where's the comp? Here with Flash, now comfortable playing Cherry and DeConning. For myself as well, I think Cherry versus Tom Cameron. I don't know what happened. Tom Campbell in that Melbourne game. He just looked dead. He just looked like he's not going to touch the ball. And then the next game comes out with the 140. And never was a huge DeConning fan. Never had him last year. Definitely hurt me a little bit in that respect. But, hey, if you're going to come out and do as well as he did and just looks good. Like, I think a lot of us are going to hate on Voss if he just slots Pitner back in the team. It's like, cool, thanks, guys. Like, you're a perfect player and you're going to go stuff him around, I guess. Round 12 bye doesn't help that much in that respect. But, yeah. Kind of going into the week's games at the moment. Let me see if this is going to work. Cool. First game off the rack here. Geelong versus Essendon. Essendon with the 104. Geelong with the 83. Maybe we'll just go through some quick scores and then quick thoughts, guys. Nick Martin, Ridley, Langford, Gresham, highest scorers for Essendon. Tom Atkins, who's going to ever pick him in Supercoach. Cameron, Guthrie, and Stewart for Geelong. Kai, what's your thoughts on this game?
Probably just like I was saying about half an hour ago, the third, fourth year players, never with a 70 and Stardust 90. I think those two have shown enough to be definitely big watches. I just want to know with you boys, what's your sort of line with those two in needing in opening round to at least get a bench slot, if not a start M7, M8?
Yep, no, fair. God, any takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I think Stewart was a big one.
Okay.
Seeing him
Good,
back
good
in
or
his,
bad?
Good. Seeing him back in his original role. I mean, he's been a Supercoach staple for, I don't know, he was for about 4 years, and then he moved into the middle, and now they're going back to the original plan with him, so which just makes him more enticing. He's not in my side currently, but and another one is, I think the obvious one is Kako. He hasn't been in my team all preseason, and now finds a way to be in there. I mean, 4 goals and 14 touches. Yeah, pretty good.
Should have been 5 goals. Hey? Bloody
Yeah,
Draper, scumbag Draper. Coach, any takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I actually love what God said. I think Stewart is probably one to keep an eye on, especially if the game moves into round 3. Again, he seems to start in that role that we love. And then it also seems like Holmes and Stewart do occasionally switch roles, and Stewart does go up into the midfield. And we did see him perform quite well towards the end of last season in that sort of role, because I think Stewart's just influential no matter where he's on the field. So I think that's an interesting one. I think Nevitt, gave us enough to confidently pick him for on-field points as well, but definitely one to watch. And then Kako, I think just got on everyone's list from that game. One I think a lot of people didn't expect is probably Martin as well. I think Martin kind of put his hand up to be someone to definitely watch early season at a potential pod to either start if you can manage to buy or even bring in if this is consistent enough.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. Big fan of Nick Martin, as if you're on George's Discord, you would know, and did very, very well. I think, as you guys have said, just this game, the big takeaway for me was just the availability of rookies, and definitely locked in a couple. Sardis for myself, Keiko would definitely be there at 150k. Zach Reed, nice to actually see him doing some stuff and how he fits into the back line with the likes of Ridley and Mackay and a few others as well. Sad about Humphreys not doing so well, but yeah, it's worked out quite well for us, I think.
Definitely.
And both of these teams having round 0 as well, so we get another free hit on kind of our fourth. Heading into the Tigers versus Magpies, and hopefully Shaq is still here, but apparently Harry Kane's kicking 10 on Reef, so watch out there, God. Richmond versus Collingwood. Bit of a blowout game there, Coach.
Yeah, this is one of those games where it's hard to kind of take too much away from it because it was such a blowout. Pigs just had their young guns running around. I think, Short put his name up and probably got on a lot of people's radar from it after having some concerns. I think it's hard because we wanted to really lock in. I know like Caleb Smith was like one that a lot of people were keen on, just didn't get a run. And then we're looking at Trainer. I think Trainer has a lot of the scoring potential to do it. It's just whether he gets the game time to actually provide us the goods, Supercoach wise. And look, honestly, this man's been in my team most of the season, pre-season, is Nate the Tank. I love it.
Yep.
Absolutely love it.
No, fair enough. Godfather will be very, very happy there. God, kind of biggest takeaways from this game?
I mean, who else, right? The man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT, Nick Daicos.
There you go. 60% game times for the 153. Get in your team.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't care if it was on the worst team of all time. I am picking this man. I had him in my team all preseason, and all I need to see was a Bonton Butters injury and a 153 off 60% game time to convince me to get him. So, but yeah, I mean, like Perryman's a big one. That 10 tackles, that's obviously not going to happen every week for him. But if he can average around that like 90, 95 mark, that would be huge. And then I don't know, another one for Richmond, I guess. You've got Short, who's also coming to my side. I think the role is different compared to other years, and I think everything's going through him in that back half. I saw his heat map. All of his touches were in the back half of the back 50. So, no, it looked very good.
Confirmation bias to get baited.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to happen. I mean, every time he gets bloody 130 in a preseason game. But yeah, and then I thought Luke Traynor looks really good when he came on too. So, yeah, it's just one to watch.
I think you might have some background noise at the moment. Let me see. Yeah, Kai, takeaways from this game?
One of the funniest parts for me was probably actually seeing Short get tagged by Hoskin Elliott in the second half after he got off to an absolute flyer. So that was probably, and that was one of the reasons why he did nothing in the second half. That was, and it was really funny to see Nick Daicos just run around, no one near him, but Collingwood actually tagged the guy that was influencing the game. And then for Collingwood, obviously Nick Daicos, Lipinski doing that in dead time it's going to catch some people. Perryman, I think, and this will be the interesting debate, I guess, in general, is how much does Perryman pick up some potential touches if Nick Daicos does get some attention, and that will cover off the increased tackles that he did have.
Yeah, no, fair enough as well. I think for myself, Lipinski is not really viable. Nick Daicos definitely has made a way into my team, or at least in consideration. And then Perryman's definitely the one. I think huge questions marks about where does he play, where does Dan Houston play, considering we won't get to see Houston in round 0 either. So, yeah, nice to kind of see that there. Jaden Short and Nankervis, as Coach mentioned, they get into my team. And I think kind of just the Squadfather said it great during the week. Just I don't even know if any rookies from Richmond for a team that brought in 8 players during the preseason. We might not see any. I mean, Luke Traynor potentially, but didn't play a full game. So, not great for those guys. Maybe we'll get some good downgrade options throughout the season. Thoughts on Peatling as an option? I guess we kind of covered that a little bit. Oh no, we haven't. We haven't covered Peatling.
I don't think we've touched on Peatling yet.
No, sorry. Let me see if I can find any more. Done. All right, heading over to Hawks versus Dogs. Now, very interesting game here. I thought this was one of the more competitive games throughout the week. Obviously, the one before this was a bit of a blowout, and even the Essendon Geelong game outside of that one. Liberatore dominating, Aaron Norton doing Aaron Norton things. A lot of contested possessions, which I found was quite interesting for him. Darcy kind of pushing English a little bit out of the way, I think, maybe. And then Frieger coming in and saying, hey, Bailey Dale, you can stay injured, mate. I'm going to be the Supercoach selection in the back line. Heading over to the Hawks now, one thing I did mention in my team review that is no longer existent due to sound issues is Warple was the only player in the Hawks team that actually scored over 100. So I'm not sure what to take out of that. Maybe they're sharing the ball around a little bit more, or, no one's really stepping up. I mean, Coach talked about Will Day. Takeaways from this game, Kai?
I think the Hawks could become the new Sydney in that they all sort of do a share around, like I was saying, with the Port Adelaide backline, it's something like that. But in terms of their whole midfield and defence, you could easily see, like we all expect D'Ambrosio, Sicily, Meek to get the odd ton, but I don't think they'll be necessarily averaging that ton. Sicily's probably the most interesting. And yeah, he had a 108-88 split in terms of fantasy and Supercoach. So there is definitely some upside if I think he might have butchered the ball a little bit or something. I don't know what exactly it was that he did that stuffed it up, but he's probably the one that at least the fantasy points are there that shows that he was getting enough of the ball. And the Supercoach points will come. And then Fraser, definitely, it's just a matter of what's Dale going to do when he gets back.
Definitely. God?
Yeah, I mean, Fraser is probably one of the main takeaways from this.
Would you start him?
I don't know about him. I don't know if I can pick a player who is relying on I don't know, another player to stay injured. Like you just I don't know. Fraser is a bit of an iffy one for me. Davidson as well is an obvious one. I think everyone should probably have him in their side. And yeah, Sicily as well. Moved forward late. But yeah, the 88 when he was playing probably 3/4 of the game in the back line is pretty good. But can you trust that he will stay 95% in the back line? That's the thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Coach?
Yeah, I definitely share the concerns about Sicily. I was eyeing him off all preseason, and yeah, just that swing forward has deterred me a little bit. I still think, if he gets more of that back time, I noticed that Scrimshaw also took some kick-ins as well.
Yep.
There's just a few questions being asked about, because he is a very high influential player for the Hawks, that they're going to utilize him wherever they can, that they wanted to be competitive towards the end of that game, and they threw him forward. So I think that's, a bit of a tell for, the potential future for his role. I think we've all touched on, Fraser, I think I probably wouldn't touch. I think Dale will cut right back in, and we'll probably see that drop tremendously. But I still think if Dale comes back and is unsure for a few rounds and you just want a cash grab, I don't think there's anything wrong with that pick at all. He's clearly got the potential there to score and make some cash. The one letdown I had was Sanders, who pretty much got the keys to the city with all the injuries and didn't do that much with it.
Nah, it was interesting too. I thought he was the one that Davidson 100% lock him into your team. I mean, he scored a 81 off 60% game time. So, yeah, it's not great. But Riley Sanders, I mean, it was there, as you say, and then just didn't really happen for us. Probably biggest takeaway. Interesting to see what the Dogs are slowly trying to do as well with so many superstars no longer in the team. Bontempelli obviously didn't play much, which affected selections, but what can you do? Heading over to Lions versus Crows, and we will touch on the Peatling pick. Thoughts on Peatling, Supercoach option. Thought he was a bit underwhelming during the Brisbane game. I think a lot of people have dropped off Peatling. If we could have done a Peatling before and after take on, who is being picked, I think that definitely would have, dropped down quite a lot. I assume you guys went from not having, having Peatling to not having Peatling in your teams? Yep. Fair enough. So Adelaide Crows came out with the 97. Dawson, who we've spoken about, jumped into a few of our teams. Crouch, presto. Hinge and then Nankervis, probably not selectable in Supercoach. Dane Zorko, definitely halfback role. Lockie Neal, 112. Definitely consideration there. And I think kind of maybe I'll go first. The biggest thing for myself was actually Baby Ashcroft and just kind of seeing how he was used in the game. And, only 66% game time, so definitely played a bit of bench. Maybe resting him a little bit from the Leo Lombard hit last week, just to make sure that he can actually get through the game. But they were looking out for him, guys. They were like, hey, let's actively get him involved in the game.
Definitely. I think the thing to question with the Baby Ashcroft as well is, all signs look pretty good that they are going to get him involved quite a fair bit, and he's definitely got the intellect for playing a little bit more forward as well. Like he threw one on the boot randomly and scored a nice goal and was barely even looking at the post. Just some of those things that just kind of showing off with the Ashcrofts in general that are really, really good. I think for me, to touch back on the Peatling thing, I think he only had like 42% CBAs or something close to that. I think everyone was like, oh, if he gets over 50, he's a lock, Yes. And it's 42 is at that really awkward spot where you're like, I mean, he's still an option, but there's a little bit more risk to it. I think Peatling, especially, I see a lot of people talking about how like Sid Draper potentially kind of cuts into that a little bit as well, coming in as potentially the sub and trying to get involved as much as he can. So I think Peatling's an easy one to potentially miss. But, he could also now potentially be a pod if no one's really on him. So you can take it any which way you really like. But, yeah. How do you guys feel about Will Ashcroft being that mid-pricer? Did we see enough from him? Have any of you guys got him in your team? Because I haven't really had him in my team as of yet.
Probably the last time I had him was over a month ago. But yeah, I think there's so many players in that Brisbane lineup that get CBAs. It's just going to chop and change kind of every week. And the issue I see with that is you could get a 120 with Ashcroft one week, and then followed up by a 100 and a 60 or something because he's playing mainly forward. So, and it's kind of the same thing with Levi Ashcroft. But yeah, I think Levi Ashcroft plays forward of the ball a lot better than Will does.
Fair enough. Kai? Ashcroft
I haven't had Ashcroft maybe since like the first putting a team together, to be honest with you. I've just always thought with the big three of Neil, Neil, Dunkley, and McCluggage didn't even have that good of a game, to be honest with you, looking at it. 66 on 72%, but he wasn't just going to be able to, there wasn't that opening in the role. It was more natural progression, and I hate to pick a player just solely off of natural progression. Yep. Levi is definitely, I think, just obviously he's a walking startup pick. I think you probably don't have the expectation that you did on like a Daicos or someone like that, or even just a Harley Reid or someone that had that open sort of third CBA role. It feels like he's going to get that sort of fifth or so, getting that 30%. But also that does have positive stuff down the line, I feel like, in terms of potential forward or something other status that could potentially pop up.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think Dane Zorko for myself, Will Ashcroft. I'm more than happy to let someone else take the risk, to be honest. I think there's better players, and the early buy, he does have a fantastic run, and maybe we'll see if there's no round, the game on Thursday gets moved to round 3, he might have just slot straight into selection there as well. So yeah, no real rookies out of each. I think Sid Draper definitely was underwhelming. Huge sub risk, guys. Huge sub risk. So a few of us just jumped on other players. I think that's probably about it for this game, right?
Yeah, that was just really disappointing with even just what Nick's saying, that they're going to run a 22 plus the sub.
Yep.
And then Draper is that 23rd player coming on. And that was just sort of that signposting there. And then just on Peatling at the bounce, he was 19.8 and now he is 13.3. So it's gone down 5.5.
There you go. So dropped off. I mean, I think 15% of super coaches haven't touched their teams because Kadeem Coleman's like 12% owned. So, that's a good that's a good watch there. Heading over to Giants versus Blues now. I didn't think it was going to be this much of a blowout, but it was. Tom DeConning went massive, slotted into everyone's teams at 525k-ish. Chera did the same for me. 108 off 60% game time. Very, very good game from the Blues. It's nice to see when the players do so well and Kerno's not in the team. Heading over to GWS, I think they felt like they were a little bit underwhelming, or they're just trying out a few of the young kids and kind of find out the groove, that kind of thing. Ash did really well. Callahan did well. He said, stuff Houston killed, or I'm going to stay at GWS. No $1.7 million for me. Darcy Jones, 101. And then Lonely Whitfield at 97, who I found to be a little bit underwhelming, guys, in this game.
I think with like Whitfield, I don't think you get too concerned. I think, from what I can see as well, he was playing a bit more of that connector role from halfback. Because I know him, I think it was Himmelberg was also taking some kick-ins as well. The interesting one for me, because I saw a few people talk about it, is that some people are in thoughts that Callahan is in the run for a breakout season. Yeah, I know some people are being quite brave to chuck him in instead of like a Chera, for example, or run with him, Chera and like Oliver. I think it's definitely one to watch for opening round. He's definitely on my watch list for sure. I didn't have Chera in all preseason, and then saw this and I was like, wow, all right then, kind of force the hand a little bit. I'm still confused on Leak because of the total difference between this game and the game before, where he only played like the last quarter, and now all of a sudden he's playing a bit of a mid role, and I just don't know what to really. He looked really good. I still don't know what to make of it though. I don't know where you guys are falling on Leak, and if he's potentially a defensive rookie that you've locked in, but I'm still a bit unsure.
I just want to ask the question: with regards to the GWS suspensions, were they able to play the unofficial but not able to play the official practice games? Because that could be one of the reasons why he didn't end up playing and is actually not best 23, but will be because of the suspensions. And then that could lead him pretty much on the bubble, and then suddenly it's like chaos rains down. So Leak is one that I'm like, I don't know what to think of. Just running the numbers, if you were to basically put Whitfield's score with his TOG regulated for what he did last year, it's a 113, so that's not an issue there basically. The role, maybe slight issue, but I still think that, like we saw with Sydney, Roberts was basically getting the 6-pointer from the kick in itself, not actually taking it, but still getting that first receive. And that's sort of pretty much a similar role Whitfield's going to get. De Koning played a Keith, which is not going to happen, but 58% TOG. He still looks like a 120 guy if he does get an actual ruck to play against. And then, Chera is an interesting one. And it's a big debate for me because when you look at the Chera numbers, he's only really had about a 15-game stretch across his career. And I think it was back in 22, I want to say, where he went on a mad 120 tear or something like that. And outside of that, he's sort of been normal, but he's obviously had all the injuries. So it will be, I think he's one that will be in my side, but there could be someone like an opening round game, like a Shield or something like that, that just pops off that suddenly it's like, oh, got to grab on him early.
Yep. No, fair enough. God, anyone here thoughts from this game?
TDK and Chera are locked into my side now after their performance. Whitfield, I don't know. I haven't had him in my team at all this year, and I don't know what it is, whether it's the price, whether it's opening round, whether I just see more value in other guys. I think it's probably more the value thing. I think there's probably a bit more value in a Jordan Clark than a Whitfield. I have a feeling that Jordan Clark could average similar to Whitfield. But he's definitely been on my radar, but I don't think I'm going to pick him now. So, and I mean, Connor Stone, he's in my side. I think he's got that he's got the backline role over Leak for the future anyway. So I think I've got both in my side, but Stone's probably the better pick than Leak due to job security.
Cool. Has Camporelli been locked into your team after this game, guys? For myself, I'm definitely trying to find a spot. Nice to have 113K rookies that look like they've cemented a spot in the teams. Quick thoughts.
He has for me. I think unless I see something crazy this weekend, I think I just need the money to go down to a 113k rookie like Camporelli. So, yeah, locked and loaded.
Yeah. Coach, same for you? Camporelli in your team or just waiting?
Yeah, definitely agree. I think being able to free up a little bit more cash to a 113 can, help make your team a little bit more structural strength, in other lines. So he's slotted in there.
Nice. Yeah, same for me too. Kai, Camporelli in your team?
Not at the moment, but he's definitely someone that I could see myself sort of going to on the bubble after an opening round guy gets their price rise. Like even just talking about Sheldrick, who we'll get to, I think he's a guy that you could easily just swap it, gain 130k, 120k, and then suddenly you're almost on upgrade season in round 4 or 5.
Yeah, definitely. As Captain Flash says here, make sure you don't pick the wrong Camporelli. Going back to when Max and Ben King got selected, there's always that talk. They ended up selecting the wrong one. So it's always great there. Heading to Giants versus Blood. We just did Giants versus Blues. There you go. Suns versus Swans. Hopefully, I haven't missed any other games. I think we're okay. Gold Coast 63. Sorry, Dimmer. It's not looking great for you. I don't think you're making finals this year, unfortunately. Swans 84. We did lose Errol Goulden, but that does open up a few extra slots for everybody. No Took Miller played this week, which isn't great either. I'm not sure if you guys have any info on what's happened with him. Best scorers for the game, Matt Roberts, definitely a few people have locked him in their teams. James Jordan, not so much. Sheldrick, if you don't have him in your side, are you even playing Supercoach this year? Heading over to Gold Coast. I don't think I've actually got any Gold Coast players in my team, guys. Like Humphrey had some question marks. Not from this game, definitely. He was named as in the middle on the team sheets. But yeah, have you guys got any Gold Coast players in your team, and who was kind of your standouts from this? Quick thoughts.
I mean,
I haven't touched the Suns player.
Yeah, I've got none. I mean, I guess you could look at Powell and Anderson. Anderson's actually probably a pretty good pick this year, but yeah, I think there's way too much value in that midfield that I like a little bit more than Anderson. And opening round buy is a bit painful for that as well.
Kind of sucks. Yeah. Coach, you got any Gold Coast players biggest takeaway from Sydney?
I think we're just getting all eyes on Anderson. I think we saw, the roller coaster that he was last season with his spike scores, but also his, floor scores as well. I think really, if you want a bit of a pod, I also think Anderson's, potentially one of the perfect flex plays you could probably have, where you get to capture those spike scores, but not necessarily have to take the floor. So I think, definitely keep an eye on Anderson. I think I was very much like you, Big J. I was keeping an eye on Humpty just because of that midfield role. But then you take into account, Miller's out. He didn't actually play that well. I think we're maybe a year or two too early on Humpty. I think he's definitely got the potential to get to that player that the Dimmer thinks he is, quoting that he was, a bit of a dusty, bit of pressure to put on the kid. But I think for the Suns, that's probably their takeaway. I did consider Rioli as well, just as a quick watch, just in that shift of a role. Maybe it was going to be a bit of a Flanders in the halfback, but it wasn't really looking like it. And he's at a really awkward price as well. You just got too much value in that back line, around the 500 and just under. So I think the main takeaways are pretty easy to take from Sydney. I am curious to get you guys' thoughts on Bice and Patton and where you think they'll slide into the team if they make best 22 and if you're looking at them.
Yeah, for me, not so much at the moment, but more than happy to bring in some 113k players or one backline just in general. Kind of sucks at the moment. So, yeah, it's not there for me. Sheldrick, definitely. Roberts, big consideration. I'm very, very glad that Sydney have round 0, just kind of figuring out a few different question marks and whatnot. Have you guys had Patton or Bice in your team? You guys considering them, as Coach says?
I think I had Bice in there a few weeks ago, maybe, but no, not at the moment. I mean, I think probably job security is the big factor here because they've got Mills and Goulden to come back. I mean, Goulden played a bit, but yeah, I can't think. Is there any Swans defenders that are due to come back as well?
It's Harry Cunningham that they're basically playing for that spot. He's got, from memory, a Liz Frank fracture or injury. That's 6 to 8 weeks. That was about a week ago. So it's Patton and Wicks that are going to play that sort of. I think one would have partnered Cunningham, but I think they both now get the slot to basically go off against each other until Cunningham comes back. Mills probably impacts Sheldrick, who scraped his way to one of the ugliest hundreds I've seen in terms of efficiency. And then I think for Sydney, it's not necessarily the names I'm looking at. It's more so that sort of half forward, sort of small forward role that Hanley, Corey Warner sort of can play alongside. I think it's going to be a Braden Campbell that gets that slot. And then obviously that fourth midfielder role, which Sheldrick should have got it, is going to get it now, I'd expect, with Goulden and Mills going down.
Yeah, definitely. Flash is saying here, Bice could be the type of player that makes 100 to 150K in like 4 to 6 weeks, and then you trade him. I think for Bice, for myself, if he comes out and does similar to this or a little bit better, might just become an auto include and maybe takes out a leak or someone in the back line, frees up some cash. It's just rough. Like, you don't want to have too many of these same buy round players, and with Sheldrick as an auto include and then Roberts potentially as a must-have selection, can you afford to take 1 or 2 Sydney rookies as well? It's probably a bit of a tough one there. John's asking his thought on this back line. Zorko, She's and Zorko if the game gets counted on Thursday. Sinclair, Roberts, Pryor, and Allen. I think, is that 3? Let me just check. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So Pryor and Allen on field in this back line.
Gary.
Yeah, cool.
Scary.
Just not Bo Allen with his -12. That's probably the only big thing. Yeah,
I'd say get extra eyes on Pryor. I mean, we like the look of it so far, but we get a free look to see if he's going to be able to be that rookie that we're all looking for. It's just unfortunate that him and Reed are going to be on the same team instead of Shane Bye. So if you both have him at D7, D8, you're out without coverage if you need it.
Yeah, struggle to hang a little bit. Kai, backline, yes, no. Get less rookies off the field.
Yeah, I like it. I think as we kind of skipped over Pryor, but I think it was more so just what's he going to score in round 0 type of approach. I think if he scored a 69, that definitely would be around about the break even for most people for putting him on there. That's, what would that be? Probably D5. Yeah, he's definitely in that consideration where just the rookies are going to come in the back line. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of wingers that have shoddy job security that are going to score 40 one week and then 100 the next. Even we saw that with Sharp last year. I know he's a midfielder, but that winger can easily go turn it on for a half or 3/4 and then be absolutely silent. And that's, I think it's what, Liam O'Connell maybe from St Kilda that did that, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. All good. Bice D8. There you go. We'll see what happens there. Heading over to Saints and the Power. Boy, oh boy, I think St Kilda fans want St Kilda to do very, very well this year. The AFL says no, unfortunately. More players injured. The team just not looking that great. I mean, Mitch Owens, from all reports, seems to have dodged the AC injury. Cooper Sharman has to have surgery on his thumb, so I'm not sure what happens there. But 2 injuries again out from this game. Not sure what happened with Liam Stocker. Does anyone remember? I had cramps. Okay, no, fair enough. Port, dominant game. No Butters. Connor Rosie basically has slotted himself to everyone's Supercoach team at 520K. Bit annoying. Miles Bergman, no one's going to pick him in their teams. Logan Evans, potentially, as God said, could be a nice Mills replacement there. No early buy. Finn Layson is someone who maybe we'll talk about a little bit. And then the big Horn Francis, who, for myself, I I didn't realize he only played 70% game time, so maybe he fell off towards the end. He didn't look that great for me. He, I don't know if he got tagged or nullified a little bit, whatnot, but felt like he creeped a little bit into the 108. Biggest takeaway, Kai, from this game?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that St Kilda midfield mix looks like. I mean, Boxall is an interesting one at scoring 83 as a pretty much basement price player, is always up there. Hugo Garcia as well. So
Garcia
there's going to be someone there that's going to score and be value. I think it's just picking the right guy. I think even at one point this week in a reshuffle, I had Garcia at like a M6, I want to say, or something like that, just because of the value that I think it was to get a Horne-Francis in as if he can get those disposals. I feel like Horne-Francis is going to be a guy that just has that sort of 10 points of upside that you can banker on, especially with the schedule that they have to start and also Butters being out. I think he just takes a fair, say, 10 points of Butters and you get that out elsewhere. So I think he's the one that is interesting. I think Finlayson's going to be your classic red flag alongside a lot of these defenders that racked it up whilst they were just passing around the back line for fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then O'Connell there, 54. Just see if he gets selected, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Coach, any big takeaways? I mean, Rosie's not going 160 every game.
Yeah, no. I think with the news of Butters and just seeing how the rotation now pretty much shifts up, I think Rosie, while he might cop attention as well, I think he's just got value written all over him as well. So if you're looking to really make a value team structure, his name's going to be in the ring. The guy touched on O'Connell, he's definitely one that we're kind of hopeful on to try and help fix our defensive rookie issues. So we're just hoping he can get on that team list when we need him to. I am scared of that Port backline. Like we literally just saw, Berman, Evans, and Finlayson all push out big scores. I know a lot of the questions around Port was like, who gets Houston's role? By the looks of it, I don't think there's a role to take. I think it's just being distributed across, all those three players, really. And to my knowledge, Finlayson was thrown back there at a whim just to see what happens, and it just so happens that he did very, very well. So it screams trap. I wouldn't touch it. Hugo Garcia, I think he did enough. I was a little bit concerned, but if you just look at the role's there. I think he could be quite happy. He was a little bit scrappy with it, but the role's definitely there. I think he's got a bit of value to be had. Naz and Steele, I know a few people were looking at. I think Naz is still a safe pick in the back line. Again, buy free, just helps cover. I still don't think you can make a bad pick with Naz.
Yeah, definitely. Flash kind of fits in with what you're saying. All of them had 15 plus kicks, 10 marks. Yeah, definitely chipped the kick out the back there. I felt a little bit like they were just wasting time. It was just like, we're just going to hold the ball and see what happens. God, any big takeaways from this game?
I would have liked to see Josh Sin play a bit more game time, to be honest, considering what he scored in that period of time. Because I really like the pick, but how many Josh Sins and Logan Evans and Kane Farrells can you have in the same team?
Yeah, I figure that too. And BZT definitely has to come back as well. So maybe he kicks someone out or takes a bit of points too. Hey.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it depends. I don't know. There was just so much preseason hype about Josh Sin in and around Port. So, yeah, hopefully he gets a game. If he doesn't, I think the obvious option for me is to probably go down to Bice and try and get something else going in another line. But, and then you got your Rosies, your Bergmans, which I was a bit surprised by his game. He did play very well, but yeah, not really looking at him. And yeah, I actually thought Travaglia played quite well for how much game time he got. So yeah,
fair enough. I think Fugiyama is saying here, I was huge on Hugo Garcia, and I think I am still a little bit. My only problem with Hugo was he just disappeared. for a period of time. And I don't know if that was bench time. Obviously, only played the 65% game time, which I guess is excusable a little bit. But I prefer the guys I'm hoping as breakout players not to disappear. He'll still make you a bunch of money. He'll probably get to 350K, but maybe not to the 400 plus that what I'm hoping, just from the pick, I think, a little bit. So watch out if he makes it into my starting team. Probably will, just with the lack of forward line options there. But, it's probably not the greatest pick. They did get smashed. So maybe that has something to do with there. Any final thoughts, guys, before we head over to Eagles Roos?
I think it was funny seeing Garcia go up against the Horny Man towards the start and just getting bodied.
There you go. Eagles versus Roos. Now, I'm going to get Rookie Coach to go through this game for me. Let's go.
All right. So I think really the main thing we take away from the Eagles here is we had Flynn come back out of what appeared to be the abyss of a choice. I really kind of want to pass this back to God because he's the man taking the risk here. I've got to give it to him. If you roll out the start with Flynn in your R2, we need like a Flynn's Diaries update each week. Like purely just a playlist, dedicated video for Flynn. I think
it might have to happen. It might have to. I mean,
I think it will, mate. Great content.
It's probably the stupidest pick of all time, putting him at R2, but I don't know. It makes for good content, and you never know. It could be a Supercoach winning move, man.
Oh, exactly. That's the thing. Go take the risk. But I think outside of Flynn being the main showstopper, I think we saw some confident things from Baker in regards to locking in that role, which they were saying all preseason he's just going to play that halfback role, which was pretty good to see. McGovern had a little bit of a quiet game. I don't see many people really throwing his hand up for a selection. I think we have Allen. I think we've all just accepted that it happened. We don't know how. It's just the reality. Hewitt is the interesting one that wasn't there. I did hear he had lighter training sessions during the week and unsure, if he's just been rested and if he's actually still best 22, because outside of the light training sessions, he was all the rave. He was leader of the B team, being thrown up against, the A squad at training and did well there. But yeah, I think Eagles-wise, I think the relevance there was, Flynn has just made himself an option for flex. And if you've got the risk tolerance, R2. But North in particular, Sheasel, if anyone had any doubts about fading him, I think that squashed it. I think
pretty much.
If you don't start Sheasel, delete your team. Go, I don't know. Go do rock climbing. Go pick up another hobby.
Definitely.
Yeah, Sherry's good. I'm getting curious to see if you guys are starting Sherry or if the rougher fixture at the start is kind of swaying you to try and find value in the ruck line. LDU, I still think's going to be a good, consistent potential pod for people to use. I really don't mind the pod pick there. Big J has swayed me to look at Foss.
Yep.
So I'm going to hand it back to you because I want you to convince me to keep Foss in my team.
Well, he's cheap. I like him. Pick 2 in the draft, second in running vertical in his age group. Clean hands, everything. I think the biggest knock on him was just not being the best accumulator. Yes, West Coast kind of bombed the ball forward a little bit, leading to, I think it was 8 or 9 intercepts against the 99 score. But if he does get that halfback role, like he kind of pushed who was it, Darcy Tucker out of that in periods of the game. Wing halfback is fantastic for him. And I think North Melbourne generally have a history of playing their early round recruits. I mean, we saw Harry Sheasel when he came in playing halfback. We saw McKercher last year come in playing halfback. It's definitely a position of need for us, and Finn O'Sullivan could do that again. A lot of us had a nod and a few of these other players. It's a fairly cheap, easy swap to the Finn O'Sullivan. So, yeah, just someone to watch over the next week or so. But he hasn't put a foot roll the entire preseason. It's just been Finn O'Sullivan doing very, very well. Came into the preseason looking fantastic. And, yeah, I like him. So, yeah, been talking about him a little bit. I quite like the pick. Kai, any big takeaways?
I think you guys covered most of it. I think Sheasel, Sherry, Daniel. I think Foz is going to be. I'm going to sway on starting him because one of the things I think that's going to happen is that I'd rather start those big rookie type players because it's a lot easier to transition the cash gen on or the cash on fields, especially on the bubble or something like that, rather than getting it off onto the rookies. So Foz and stuff like that, he could easily it's pretty easy for him. And that role, that wing halfback role he's going to score 70, I feel like, even in it. So that's going to be a lot better than this sort of half forward role that we saw out of like Langford and some other guys like that. That was just horrific to watch. And he's got good job security. And then for Eagles, not really much. Bo Allen's probably, I think the discussion with him is, I think just that extra 20K. I feel like you may have to trade him on the bubble if he does stink it up like he did in the trial game. But that extra 20K, just being able to go down rather than up is an interesting discussion.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as God's kind of said before as well, if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, Bo Allen might just get the chop, just because he's a bit more expensive than a 117K player, and it could be the difference between you having someone you want as a primo and someone you don't want as a primo, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Initiator saying here, Harley Reid is a fake. There you go. Supercoach God with the quotes. We'll make a bit of a list of those throughout the season. Should be good. Mark's asking here, what's your guys' thoughts on Harley Reid? I might start it off. I was very prominent last year and copped a lot of flack of saying McCurch is a better player. And I think, very, very happy that we got him and not Harley Reid. God, yes or no, Harley Reid?
Oh, well, this guy just ruined my whole year last year.
Yep.
I think I traded him out at round 3?
Mm-hmm.
After 2 like 50s and 60s. And I've decided, you know what? I'm just never going to touch him again, just because he hurt me so bad that I can just never touch him again. So no, he's a no for me. And I don't think he's consistent enough, to be honest. And I don't think he'll make much money at all.
Fair enough. Coach, similar position, Harley Reid.
Yeah,
it's
very, very much it's a no from me. I think at the price as well, like you're paying $434 for him. Yeah, I think there's more value to be had. I mean, we haven't really seen, like, he's had a interrupted preseason, mind you. There's better value to be had for that price. So I don't even think he's part of the conversation.
Yeah, fair enough. I imagine the same thing for you, Kai, as well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to even just quickly get it up here with trying to because he's a very similar player to like Chad Warner, and just seeing if Chad Warner's had an All-Australian season and gone 104 Supercoach. So I think that's something Reid's going to average in the next 3 or 4 years, but it took Chad Warner till his third year to get to 97. And so there's going to take some time for Harley to get to that stage, and that's just what impact players are. They take their time to get the disposals up enough.
Yeah, one thing I actually I obviously watched the game and took a bit of the commentary from it as well, is that Harley Reid needs to play a bit more team orientated and not trying to go in and just try and dominate against everyone, because I think the competition a little bit has taken hey, we know what this kid can do and let's not let him do that. So they were saying, hey, look, maybe he should have passed here or done this, or good on him for, giving the ball away and stuff. So something to watch out for. I think, outside of Sheasel, Sherry, a few of these other players, Caleb Daniel, automatic lock into everyone's team. I mean, similar to Rosie and a few others, if Caleb Daniel at 260K is not in your team, you made an account and they never touched it again. Watch on Matt Flynn. That's all I'll say. Watch on Matt Flynn. If not R2, like God's doing at the moment, consider him for flex. I mean, we spoke about it a little bit, but yeah, he's just cheap and he's playing solo ruck or close to it at the moment and can make us a bit of money. It could be a tricky one. Flynn was flying around like an eagle while being surrounded by turkeys, potentially. BJ Williams, I thought, may second ruck a little bit more, but they seem to have left it to Archer Reed a little bit. So something to watch out for as well. But yeah, not too bad there. I think to put together the favourite, and I'll tell you, Charles, we're going to do something on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for the end of this as well. Heading into the last game, I'm going to leave it with you, Kai. Take us through the game.
Well, this game was probably highlighted in the first half through one of the worst combined goal scoring or kicking for goal that I've seen in a game. I think at one point it was about 6 goals, 20. And Fremantle decided to actually get their kicking boots on, and Melbourne decided they just sputtered up for the whole game. But Andrew Brayshaw absolutely smashed it alongside Luke Jackson on very limited disposal numbers, but high efficiency. And then for the Melbourne, we saw the return of their star players, Oliver, Petrarca, Gawn, and then Stephen May, just all absolutely taking the piss. And that was just outstanding to watch. Even as an opposition fan, it was seeing Oliver back to his best, just being able to just run freely. It's just really good to see. And Petrarca, wow. He put his name on notice there with a 126, and just the ease at which he was just able to basically just command possession of the ball, 33 touches. He just looked back to his best. I don't know what you guys thought of the midfield for Freo. That's probably the big talking point. And I think the one also was just seeing Nathan O'Driscoll on, I think it was a 60% tog in the first quarter for a 0, to the point that I had to quadruple check if that was the time on ground was lying or if they were actually, if he'd actually played. So I checked between, I think, DFS and Fan Footy and also the AFL app, and they all said that he played. So apparently he did in the first quarter. But I just want to see, maybe, Coach, your thoughts on the Johnson Reed sort of Erasmus, what's that, 5th midfielder role?
Yeah, it's tricky. I don't think... I personally haven't seen enough where we can actually say with confidence we're going to know where everything's going to fall. And that's probably the scary part with the Freo rookies, is they're all still currently trying to make that role for themselves. I think O'Driscoll, I was very much like Kai, just unsure where he went with those points. And then all of a sudden came out, did some like really wonderful things, was hard after the ball, and showed us why we even wanted to pick him in the first place. But I mean, it's hard to pick a player that's going to have the hot and cold moments, where they can just disappear from the game entirely, and you sit there wondering, oh, they're on 50. They've been on 50 for the whole quarter. Where the hell are they? They're not on the bench, and you check in the AFL app to see who's on the bench and all this stuff. So I think it's hard to confidently pick one. I think it's ultimately just going to come down to some potential training reports that we can kind of get between now and round 1. So I'm still very uncertain on the Fremantle Rooks. I still think Reed's probably still ahead from just overall reports coming out of how much they like the kid. He's probably the only one I could take comfortably at the moment. But yeah, I think I personally had Jackson last season and rode that roller coaster of the spike scores, and then when Darcy came back and then hiding behind a couch watching Freo. I hope people don't potentially get trapped into Jackson again. I think he's a little bit scary if you're going to start him, potentially. But he's looking good. Jackson's looking solid, and apparently he's staying in Freo, given the rumours that Vic teams were coming after him.
Well, there you go. Mark's asking. Jackson is a go for ruck forward this year. What do you guys reckon, God? Luke Jackson made any slots into your team, or kind of a bit scared about Darcy coming back? What's the go?
Just from prior experience, starting him last year. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the exact same thing. Darcy's going to come back. Jackson's going to start scoring 60s and 70s. And then Darcy will go out again and he'll start scoring 120s. It's just, a massive roller coaster of a season if you own Luke Jackson. But I guess on a few other players, like Petrarca's definitely made way in my side. If you don't have Clary, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Reed's the pick of the yard for me for Dockers rookies at the moment. So I reckon Erasmus would probably have a bit more potential. However, he's just not going to get game time, is he? And he just didn't look that good in this game today.
Yeah, same. That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah,
as well.
Not too much to touch on. Maybe Brayshaw as well. So he's a very good option this year too.
One of the big things for me, I didn't really touch on with you guys, was how poorly Lindsay and Langford did. I got kind of roasted in the Discord a little bit with, they didn't really do much. They were on like 15 and 18 at half time or quarter time. I'm like, okay, one to watch. Are they going to, the jinx is going to come through and then they're going to do really well? And then, it was probably 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 10 points. And then they've ended up on 53 and 43 respectively. So, yeah, for two players that I thought were going to be a bit more dominant. I don't know if Coach kind of picked up on what I was saying yesterday on Supercoach Pro's stream, but Freo, Melbourne, a few of these other teams, they seem to be dominated by maybe 5 or 6 really good players, and then the rookies kind of take a little while to like catch up a little bit or just don't get a lot of the ball. Like Howes was probably the best rookie from Melbourne we've had in a while, and these other guys, if Melbourne versus Freo starts to go to the wire, I think Clayton Oliver and Petrarca are going to command the ball a lot more than like a Harvey Langford or a Lindsay. So probably not the greatest situation for them to be in. What position is Reed? Murphy Reed's playing mid initiator. There you go. Freo rotating mids. I think, did we show this one already? Hence Saronglo, Tog. He also didn't play the fourth quarter as well. Driscoll showed great potential. Sub-risk potentially. Brayshaw is a go. I think so as well. Everyone here saying Brayshaw's a go. Thoughts on Wagner, guys? I know I love Corey Wagner, former North Melbourne player. Finally seems to have cemented a spot in the team. So maybe that him playing well has unlocked Hayden Young, who obviously didn't play, to play a bit more mid-time when he comes back. So consideration in Supercoach, probably not. Initiators right here. I think the benefit of playing up for the rookies this year might just be the job security. Hey, guys.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any final thoughts before we head off from this game?
I thought Windsor
I want to
was
get your... Sorry, go, Kai. Go.
I thought Windsor, that combination with Lindsay, Windsor, as well as, what was it, Jed Adams and Howes feels very much like who's going to be chopped by Petty. And I just thought that half back it's going to be interesting how that plays out, because what's that, about 200 points for probably 3 slots. So I think someone's going to lose it, and there definitely will be value there in someone out of Lindsay. I hope it's Lindsay over Windsor, but I was really surprised to see Windsor's score, because it felt like he was getting a lot more of it than what he actually ended up on. Like, I was just like, he's only had 9 touches. It feels like he should be on almost about 15 or 20. So that was probably the big surprise one.
Interesting.
Definitely.
Anyone else?
I think the annoying part of this game, and Kai touched on it earlier, with his displeasement with Lagdon taking Rivers mid-time and somehow getting thrown into that role. I was seeing a lot of promise with Rivers, and he was a bit of a lock. But yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Rivers is not a viable pick, and I think I had a lot of faith in Langford. He looked really good in the practice matches. They were having good reports on him. So just to see, as you touched on in last night's stream with Supercoach Pro, Big J, I think it's very much that case of when they really want to make an effective use of the ball, they're not looking for those players. They're looking to get into the main magical hands of now top form Clary and Petrarca, and just kind of run it through those hands, and those guys just kind of have to get it when they can, and it doesn't look like it will be often.
Thoughts on Adams down back? Definitely showed a few things early, I think, and then kind of fell off a little bit. Do you think he's best 22 guys, or a watch and see for round one names?
Well, it depends. How long's Van Ruin out for?
I'm not sure. I don't know if that's. It was back spasms, right? So he might even be playing next week.
Yeah, okay. I think to be honest, I probably think he does as that little backup ruck for Gawn. He can pinch in the ruck. But I don't. It's definitely a sub risk, and yeah, I don't know if we really have no one come round one, and you have to go to a Jet Adams. It's not the end of the world.
Anyone else?
I just think that Petty, I think Toomey said Petty's back for round one against GWS, or that's what Melbourne's saying. I think Petty just comes in, plays down back, and Jet Adams is the first one off the rank there, and that's simply put there. And yeah, I thought Johnson actually was disappointing as another pull up forward for them. I thought he could have easily, and he is min price or rookie basement price, so I think he's one that could easily just suddenly pop out and be a negative 20 break even on the bubble type of guy, and then you're just looking at it. But that has Van Rooyen. Who's their other guys? It's Jefferson that they have as well, that's in and around the mark for forwards. So their key forwards, their key position slots are definitely interesting for Melbourne to see if they can get games, as a lot of people are putting in the chat that Gawn is on his last legs, I would say. I think this is the last year that we get him a true primo. So the backup ruck or the secondary ruck might have to take maybe 5 or 10% more ruck contest, which Johnson was in the ruck. He didn't look good in the ruck, to be honest with you. But then again, Reedy and Jackson are both legitimate ruckmen, so he would be playing up against, I think, a easier ruck in other rounds. So that's he didn't do the absolute worst, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Gawn did look cooked at times. I know he was everywhere, but yeah, is it the last year of Gawn kind of dominating as much as what we think, guys? I mean, scored okay in Supercoach, kicked a cheeky goal and got 4 frees, which definitely helped his scoring a little bit. But it kind of picking up on what Yum's saying here, he definitely did maybe not as mobile or running around as much. Could it have been a hot game? It was quite dominating there in Perth.
I think it just comes down to the knocks he got throughout the first half. I wouldn't be too concerned with Gawn if you have him.
Knee in the back.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Jackson got one into his gut or lower ribs there that took him off for 5 or 10 minutes. I want to say it was deep in the third or so. And the doctors were talking about that, and they were thinking of even pulling him at that point, because I think Melbourne were down 30 or so points, and then they went on a run to get it closer. But yeah, I think this is the last year of Gawn. He did look dominant, but he's going to probably get an injury sometime, I would think.
Maybe there's sunscreen on his head ran into his eyes. There you go as well. All righty, guys. Well, that is all the teams for this weekend. I think from now on, we'll go through the injuries. We'll go through the teams as well. Bit of a structure there, chatting through all of the topics and whatnot. Before I head off with you guys and say, hey, what have you guys got coming out? Thank you very much, fellas, for jumping on. It has been bloody fantastic. First episode of the new show. Bit of teething problems in different places, but definitely we'll figure that out as we come. For those who are asking, definitely keep an eye on our Facebook. We will be doing another team review video, potentially coming out Wednesday or Thursday. So definitely keep an eye out for the post of that. Remember, you've got to have your entire team on there. Just press the screenshot button, guys. Like, don't make us go through 500 different pictures and whatnot, because it kind of makes us a bit tricky. Is Adams an option down back? Or do we have too many deaf rookies? Okay, we did that one already. Sorry. Is Ginnivan a lock? I know that... No. Okay, cool. All right. Got you there. Thanks, Mark. There you go. Good night, everybody. Kai, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on my YouTube at KB Sports Fantasy. Also on Twitter, there's the YouTube page for that, as well as my usual ranting Twitter, just Kairoom35. And then you can also find the audio files of the YouTube videos at the Spotify under the KB Sports Fantasy as well.
Easy. Rookie Coach, where can we find you?
Yeah, on X and YouTube, just Rookie Coach AFL. Nice and easy and simple.
Perfect. God, same thing. Where can we find you?
Yep. So just Supercoach God on YouTube and Supercoach God. I think it's Supercoach God YT on Twitter. So yeah.
Easy. Now, guys, we've got the drive home starting again on Thursday, 5:30. So definitely stick in for that. Joe will be back for that episode. He's got a sneaky podcast coming out with Brody Holland. So that's where he is today. Hence the new show and the new faces there. And we will have our members live stream tomorrow as well. So stay tuned for that. It's been a fun show. Hopefully you guys have had a lot of fun. Catch you in the next one. Let me see if I can find it.